12 years ago, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag took us to the Caribbean, blending the Assassin's Creed formula with the freedom of a pirate's life. It was a bold move for the series, one that paved in ways no one expected. How does it hold up today? Is it still the groundbreaking experience we remember? Or has time exposed its flaws? In this video we'll take a closer look at its open world, naval combat, story and legacy, to see if Black Flag still deserves its place as one of the best games in the series and one of the best pirate games ever made. We'll start by exploring its open world, diving into what made the Caribbean feel so alive and immersive. Then we'll break down the naval combat, which remains one of the most unique and satisfying systems in gaming. After that, we'll analyse the story, focusing on Edward Kenway's journey and the supporting cast that made it so memorable. Finally, we'll deliver our verdict on whether Black Flag is still worth playing in 2025. And don't forget to subscribe, like and comment on this video. One of the biggest selling points of Black Flag at launch was its unparalleled sense of freedom. Unlike past Assassin's Creed games which were confined to bustling cities, Black Flag threw players into the open Caribbean, a vast seamless world with over 50 explorable locations. From the dense jungle to the hidden coves, massive fortresses and thriving colonial cities, the game offered an unmatched variety of environments for its time. The ability to jump on your ship and sail anywhere was a game changer in 2013, making the world feel truly alive and reactive. Even today, sailing through Black Flag's world feels immersive and rewarding. The dynamic weather system, that the way the ocean changes from calm waters to violent storms, and the random encounters with merchants, pirates and naval fleets all contribute to the feeling of a living world. However, not everything was perfect. And looking back, some cracks in the open world design are more noticeable today. While the ocean is breathtakingly vast, much of the land-based exploration feels shallow. Many islands exist just for collectibles or minor side activities, without much depth, and once you've visited a few of these islands, you start noticing a pattern of repetition, similar layouts, reused assets, and limited interaction outside of treasure hunting and hunting animals. Additionally, the cities Havana, Nassau and Kingston, while beautiful, felt like a step back from previous Assassin's Creed games like AC2 or Brotherhood. Unlike Renaissance, Italy's grand architectural marvels, Black Flag cities felt smaller, less detailed and lacking depth beyond the main story missions. That being said, where the game lacks in depth, it makes up for scale and atmosphere. Also, a great open world needs more than just scenery. You need things to do. Thankfully, Black Flag delivered a huge variety of side activities, some of which still hold up today. The underwater exploration, for example, was absolutely magnificent, a bold and unique addition, searching for sunken treasure, evading sharks, and navigating through eerie shipwrecks created some of the game's most tense and memorable moments. The legendary ship battles, where you take on the most powerful ships in the Caribbean, were some of the toughest challenges in the game. Even today, facing one of the most massive man-o'-wars remains the most satisfying encounters in Assassin's Creed history. Other activities like hunting, fort takeovers and Templar hunts added even more variety. However, not all side activities were equally engaging. The infamous collectathon issue of older Ubisoft games is persistent in Black Flag, between analyst fragments, treasure chests, sea shanties, main stones, Templar keys and more. The sheer number of collectibles felt overwhelming. A lot of them offered little to no reward, existing purely for completionist rather than meaningful progression. So after 12 years, does Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag still offer one of the most best open worlds in gaming? Absolutely. While some aspects feel dated, such as NPC, AI, repetitive island layouts and filler content, the overall design feels remarkable and breathtaking. Few games capture the sense of adventure, the freedom and the open sea, and the sheer thrill of exploration like Black Flag did, and for that reason it remains a timeless classic.
Heard the old man say, leave her, Johnny, leave her. Tomorrow ye will get your pay, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is long and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her.
When Black Flag was released, its naval combat was groundbreaking, a perfect blend of strategy, action, and cinematic chaos. Unlike previous Assassin's Creed games, where combat was mostly parkour-based sword fighting, Black Flag shifted its focus onto ship-to-ship warfare, and honestly, it stole the show. The Jackdaw wasn't just a mode of transportation, it was a character of its own, and upgrading it was just as important as leveling up Edward Kenway himself. From reinforcing the hull to adding mortars, broadside cannons, and reinforced ram, every upgrade felt impactful and necessary as enemies became tougher. Now what made it great? The weight of the ship. Unlike many games where ships feel floating tanks, Black Flag nailed the realistic momentum and movement of sailing. Turning felt deliberate, waves affected combat, and every maneuver had to be calculated. The variety of weapons, you weren't just firing cannons. Chain shots, mortars, barrels, and ramming attacks all added variety, making every battle feel unique. Boarding ships. Instead of just sinking ships, you could grapple, board them, taking on enemy captains and their crew in a mix of sword, combat, and environmental kills. This wasn't just for show. Boarding ships earned loot and supplies for upgrading the Jackdaw, making it a key part of progression. And then you got the legendary battleships. For those looking for the ultimate challenge, Black Flag featured 4 legendary ships, each a monstrous opponent requiring perfect maneuvering and precise cannon fire. Even today, defeating these ships remain one of the most rewarding achievements in the game. As everything, there's always critique. As great as naval combat was, it was nowhere near perfect, and playing it in 2025, some noticeable cracks. Repetitive encounters. While battling ships felt epic at first, after a while engagement started feeling formulaic. Most fights followed the same pattern: fire, broadside, dodge, weaken enemy, board or sink. There wasn't enough variety in enemy tactics to keep things consistently fresh. Enemy AI limitations. Enemy ships rarely outmaneuvered or surprised the player. They tended to follow predictable movement patterns, making most battles less about strategy and more about raw firepower, and a lack of naval mechanics. While the game introduced weather effects like storms or rogue waves, they didn't have a huge impact on naval strategy. More advanced mechanics like wind, direction, affecting speed, or deeper ship customization could have made the system even better. That being said, Black Flag's naval combat remains one of the most satisfying ship battle systems in gaming history. Now, separate away from naval combat, on foot combat is a very different story indeed. Like previous Assassin's Creed games, it's followed the counter-based combat system, where players could parry, disarm, and perform instant kill counters. The good of that, it was fluid and cinematic with satisfying finishing skills and also brutal kill animations. Dual wielding swords and quick gunplay added flair to battles, making Edward feel like a lethal pirate assassin. Plus the environmental kills like knocking enemies into the ocean or off the ledge. It's always a nice feature, but the critique is it was too easy and overpowered counters. The combat relied heavily on counter attacks, making it way too easy to take on large groups. Just like in early Assassin's Creed games, enemies stood around waiting to attack, turning battles into a arithmetic counter-kill dance. Lack of depth compared to the naval combat. While sword fights looked cool, they lacked real challenge or variation. Enemy types were mostly reskinned versions of the same 3 or 4 archetypes: basic soldiers, brutes, and agile fighters. Stealth was a hit or miss with the interpretation of smoke bombs and stealth darts, but it was very inconsistent, making sneaky approaches less reliable. Just going in and sword swinging was always the best approach. While on-foot combat was serviceable, it felt outdated even at launch, especially when compared to other action games at the time. like Batman: Arkham City, which features smoother, more tactical combat systems. At the end of the day, Black Flag had two vastly different combat experiences, one on land and one at sea. Naval combat was thrilling, tactical, and innovative, while on land felt simpler, more repetitive, and outdated. The game's balance leaned heavily towards ship battles, with on-foot combat taking a back seat, and honestly, that was the right choice. By focusing on naval warfare, Black Flag embraced what made it unique, even it meant sacrificing the depth of land combat found in the early Assassin's Creed games. Now, so 12 years later, does Black Flag combat hold up? At naval combat, 100%, absolutely, it remains one of the best ship battle systems in gaming. Sea of Thieves has a lot to learn from it because the level of Assassin's Creed detail took Sea of Thieves like what, 10 years to make that flop of a game? Come on, that's a joke, and Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out 12 years ago. Now, the land combat not so much, is still fun, but it feels outdated, repetitive, and too easy compared to modern action games. But what about the story? Was Edward Kenway's journey one of the best in the series, or was it all a flash and no substance? Every great pirate story begins with dreams of fortune and freedom, or what happens when those dreams cost you everything. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag wasn't just about naval battles and high sea adventures. Beneath the swashbuckling spectacle lay a surprisingly emotional story, one of ambition, betrayal, and regret. But 12 years later, does Edward Kenway's journey still stand among the best in the series? Or was it just a fun pirate romp with a forgettable plot? Let's dive in, exploring characters, themes, and the ultimate legacy of Black Flag story. Unlike Ezio, Altair, or Connor, Edward Kenway wasn't just an assassin by choice. He wasn't driven by duty or revenge, he was driven by greed. A pirate first and assassin second. Edward didn't join the assassins out of loyalty, he stole the identity of an assassin to make a quick profit. His selfishness and reckless ambition made him a flawed yet a fascinating protagonist. The perfect pirate fantasy, he was charismatic, bold and fearless, embodying the ultimate pirate archetype, while still feeling grounded and human. The character arc that matters the most. Unlike some protagonists who start noble and stay noble, Edward undergoes a meaningful transformation. As the story progresses, he loses friends, allies, and the very freedom he sought, forcing him to confront the emptiness of his ambitions. While Edward was a fantastic lead, what about the supporting cast? Now, the most renowned pirate of the golden age of piracy, Blackbeard, Edward Thatch, perhaps the most memorable character besides Edward. Blackbeard was terrifying, yet strangely wise. His fear of irrelevance and eventual tragic death made him far more than just a legendary pirate. He was a man out of time. Now, your quartermaster, Adewale, Edward's first mate, and later the protagonist of Freedom Cry. Adewale was the true moral compass of the story. His transition from pirate to assassin was one of the best character arcs in the game, and in many ways, he was more of a hero than Edward ever was. Now, Mary Read and Anne Bonny, two of the most underrated characters. These women weren't just sidekicks, they had their own agency, struggles, and powerful moments. Mary's tragic fate was one of the most emotional points in the game, and Anne's closing moment to Edward brought the story full circle. Now, beneath the sword fights and treasure hunts, Black Flag had a deeper story, one about freedom, ambition, and the cost of a selfish life. The illusion of freedom, Edward believed that wealth would make him truly free. But by the time he got everything he wanted, he realised he had nothing left. Also, the price of betrayal. Almost every major character in the story meets a tragic fate, either due to greed, betrayal, or the ruthless nature of piracy itself. A reflection of the assassin and Templar conflict, Edward was caught between chaos and control, but never fully belonged to either side. The one assassin was about freedom, the Templar is about control. His eventual decision to embrace the assassins wasn't because of ideology, but because he had to finally learn to care about something greater than himself. Now for everyone's easily the most worst part of the game, the modern story, a cool premise. Instead of playing as Desmond, you play as a random character, a nameless Abstergo employee, essentially reliving the pirate history for a video game company. It was a meta idea that fit the pirate theme well, as Abstergo wasn't just a greedy corporation profiting off history, but it went nowhere. Unlike the modern day segments in AC2 or AC3, Black Flag's present day story felt like an afterthought. It teased big things, hints of Juno's return, a mysterious hacker, and a sage, but ultimately it led to nothing impactful. While the game itself was fantastic, this was the moment Assassin's Creed overarching modern day plot truly lost direction.
Old Billy Riley was a dancing master.
Now you're ready to sail for the Horn. We're roll and go. Our boots and our clothes, boys, are all in the port. We're rollicking randy dandy, yo. Heave a pole, heave away. We're roll and go.
Now the final verdict. 12 years later, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remains one of the most strongest in the series, not because of the Assassin-Templar conflict, but because of Edward Kenway's personal journey, a protagonist with real depth, a fantastic sporting cast, themes that hit harder than expected. While the modern day segments were weak, the pirate storyline remains a high point in Assassin's Creed history. But beyond the story, does Black Flag deserve its legendary status? Let's break it all down. Now firstly, in the final verdict, the open world still holds up. Few games capture the freedom of the sea quite like Black Flag. The naval combat is still excellent. Some elements feel repetitive, but remains the best ship combat game in history. The land combat, aged poorly, too easy, too simple, and lacking depth, same as the tailored missions. The story, one of the best in the franchise. Edward's journey hits harder even today. The final rating, 5 out of 5, still a masterpiece. While some elements feel dated, Black Flag remains a must play for both Assassin's Creed fans and newcomers alike. It wasn't just an Assassin's Creed game, it was the ultimate pirate adventure. While Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag wasn't perfect, it was something special. And as we look back 12 years later, one thing is clear, it is still the best pirate game ever, and it is still the best Assassin's Creed game. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, comment and like the video.